there's one way to estimate an exponential market, and it's called the Fermi method. It is named after the Italian-American physicist Enrico Fermi, who had a unique ability to make accurate approximations with very limited data. And so his method is a technique for estimating large, complex, or seemingly unknowable quantities, like exponential market, like a market that doesn't exist. You have no comparison, no benchmarks. The method is based on the principle of breaking down a problem into smaller, more manageable parts, and then making educated guesses for each part. Guesses that are manageable, as you'll see in some examples I'll show you, but that also, if done right, create bounds for the errors you're committing in making your estimations and making your combined estimation. And what this method typically provides is an order of magnitude estimate for an otherwise, quote unquote, unquantifiable number. So order of magnitude, it's 1, 10, 100, 1,000. And that is at the stage you are good enough for our purposes. You do not need to know this to the second decimal, but if you can estimate the market of something that doesn't exist and you believe you can build with an order of magnitude resolution, then you accomplished what you're doing. I've used this method many times, and it's possible to get within a, for example, 2x resolution and magnitude. But it's okay if you are within an order of magnitude. So here's the step-by-step for the Fermi method. Number one, define the problem. What is the specific market you're trying to estimate? You really need to have a good definition because that sets up the next stage. So be very clear about what exactly you're trying to estimate. Be very precise in your definition and be fairly detailed in your definition of what you try to estimate. The next step is the most important one. It's breaking down the problem. It's determining the major component that contribute to your market size. So in essence, a number of variables that if you multiply them, you come up with a quantity that represents your estimate for the size of the market. The third one is estimate each variable. And because these are smaller, more manageable elements, you can use available data. There's no data about the market you're building, but there might be data about elements and subcomponents of the breakdown of the problem. And or you can make educated guesses. And because these are smaller, more manageable entities, you're usually able to make an educated guess for the components when you cannot make an educated guess for the total. And the fourth one is very mechanical. You just combine the individual estimates and calculate the total market size. So I want to spend some extra time on step 2. I mentioned this is the most important one, and it's also the creative part of the Fermi method. And whenever you are doing a decomposition of a problem according to this, you have typical multiple decompositions of the problem, but they're not all created equal. They differ in their power and their ability to support generating the estimates for each variable and the overall market. And I'll later come to some techniques for optimizing your breakdown and what represents a good breakdown versus a not so good breakdown. To give you a hint for the complexity that you're aiming at, this breakdown for many problems typically contains 5 to 10 component variables. So if you have fewer than 5, you're probably not granular enough and you haven't replaced, either the problem isn't that complicated to start with, or you haven't replaced your overall market size problem with enough of a granular view that you can successfully apply step 3 and step 4. But it also typically doesn't have more than 10 component variables. And if you have way more than 10, you're probably overthinking this and you're breaking this down into a way too granular level for what we are trying to accomplish here. So I leave this on for another moment. I just want you to look at this and understand the steps you need to take, define the market, then think about the decomposition, and that probably takes the majority of time, because if you're on the wrong path here, you cannot recover from this. You will have to go back to the drawing board if that happens, which is okay, but took some of your time. You need to estimate the variables. And in the real world, you will be able to Google a number of those, and that's perfectly fine. You will just not be able to Google the total end result, because that entry doesn't exist. And then you aggregate these into your estimate for the market size.